Hello and thanks for joining us this week on the Bison Basketball Show. I'm Brian Shawn. It was rivalry weekend at the Shack with both the North Dakota State men's and women's basketball team hosting North Dakota. Both teams coming to Fargo for the first time as conference opponents in the Division I era. But first, both the Bison men and women had to make a road trip to Denver. The Bison's last win in Denver coming back in 2015, but they would come out aggressive early on. Freshman Sam Griesel, making his first start since November, scored the first 4 points of the game, including this lay-in on the back cut. Cameron Hunter, also back in uniform for the first time since late November. He hits the three and scored 12 points off the bench. The Bison lead up to 9. After Denver trims it to 3, Tyson Ward, strong in the paint, hanging and scoring for the basket and the foul. He had 6 points and 5 boards in the first half, along with 3 assists, including this pass to Rocky Cruiser for another basket in the paint. North Dakota State led by 6 going into the locker room. But the Pioneers would respond with a 10-0 run early in the second half. In transition, Ronnie Harrell Jr. missing the 3, but Torrey Stewart-Miller there for the putback to tie the game up at 40 apiece. The Bison had 8 offensive rebounds in the game, 2 of them from Deng Geu. He muscles in 2 of his 6 points to tie the game up again. With under 10 minutes to go, Vinny Shaheed finding an opening and driving to the bucket to make it a 2-point game. But North Dakota State went cold from the field, and the Pioneers started to pull away with an 18-3 run off the turnover. Ade Murkey dropping it off to Harrell. He had 15, and Denver rolls to the 80-65 victory as NDSU shot just 31% in the second half. Cruiser led the way with a team-high 13 points. The Bison men returned home to host in-state rival North Dakota on Saturday, and the visitors go on a 15-0 run early to take the lead. Marlon Stewart scored 12 first-half points for the Fighting Hawks, and it was a 17-5 game. But North Dakota State starting to chip away with an 8-0 run of its own. Cameron Hunter playing in just his second game since coming back from injury and connecting on his only basket of the game for 3. Deng Geu would also come off the bench to provide an offensive punch. He had 8 points and 5 rebounds in the first 20 minutes. The Bison would finish the first half on a 17-7 run to take the lead. Jared Samuelson with the steal, and he takes it all the way in for 2. He played a team-high 34 minutes, and it was a 1-point lead at halftime. The two teams continued to trade baskets in the second half. Rocky Cruiser getting the feed from Tyson Ward and muscling it in to tie the game at 49. It would be tied again at 63 when Billy Brown steps in and hits the jumper. He added 12 points and gives North Dakota the lead back. But NDSU would answer with 2 big baskets inside. Freshman Sam Griesel would tie the game on the next possession. He also had a game-high 11 rebounds. Then with just over a minute and a half to go, Geu back to work inside, getting the go-ahead basket. He was the only Bison player in double-figure scoring with 15. The Fighting Hawks had a chance to tie or take the lead in the closing seconds. Stewart's jumper came up short. The tip and heave at the buzzer were also off the mark, and the Bison hang on for the 67-65 victory, holding the Fighting Hawks scoreless for the final 3:22 of the game, getting 30 points off the bench.
It's always a wild one, especially when we play UND. But emotions aside, we got the dub as a team, so it was a good one. We preached to our guys, it's going to be a rivalry game, but it's just the same game like we play every single time. So we just went out there, executed our game plan, and got the W.
Obviously, I knew it was going to be a really hype environment and loud, but it wasn't quite what I expected. It was a little bit more, and obviously I was impressed by how many people were here and how loud it was, and that really helped us throughout this whole game.
Stay with us here on the Bison Basketball Show. After the break, we'll sit down with Bison men's coach Dave Richman to recap the past week.
The Bison Basketball Show on Midco Sports Network is presented by No-Dak Insurance Company and Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.
Welcome back to the Bison Basketball Show. We are now joined by North Dakota State men's basketball coach David Richman from here at the Shield Center inside the Sanford Health Athletic Complex. And Dave, wild week. Go to Denver, have to come home and take on North Dakota in a rivalry game on a Saturday afternoon. Take me through that whole sequence of events here the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think it's welcome to the Summit League, Brian. There's really good competition day in and day out, and our Western Illinois game is almost an exception to the rule. And you're going to be in battles. And I was pleased with our first half against Denver, and come out and get up 8, and that was that next step for us, kind of as a group, to earn that road victory. And we weren't able to do it. We weren't able to respond to some adverse situations. But the way we came out here against North Dakota was really encouraging. And not the way we came out, but the way we were able to finish. And the outcome of this game to earn it, especially on the defensive end, hopefully this can take us a long way.
It was one of those games, too, where you've been in so many of these types of games where it comes down to the last couple of possessions here at home. Fort Wayne didn't go your way, South Dakota did, North Dakota did. But at the same time, different guys are going through these experiences, and you got to feel like it's only going to help you in February when you get into these situations again.
You sound like me, talking about different guys going through different experiences. And I think, it's perspective. It's not an excuse, but there's just some things that I can only simulate. We as a staff can only simulate in practice, and you have to go through these experiences in live action. And you talk about a guy like Sam Griesel here this afternoon in a big-time environment, in a game like this, to see him have success, for him to see himself have success, that's encouraging going forward.
Well, the one thing that you've talked to me about at length and is like, we're going to ride the guys that we feel are going to be the best down the stretch, and we saw that 3 bench players in the game, a true freshman in the game. You weren't afraid to go to guys that were, frankly, you felt giving you the best chance to win in the closing moments, and that's got to be nice luxury to have. Not everybody has that.
Yeah, absolutely, and we talked about it again from the onset of this season, that we have some depth and versatility, and you're going to go through some experiences with a younger group, and then you have some adversity with Cam and Sam being out. But it was really exciting, really refreshing to see them two back out there in particular in crunch time. So I really like our group going forward, but we got to keep working. We got to stay hungry and validate it. We're on this win one, lose one, and we got to get out that night against a very good team coming up here Thursday night. And
you got a chance to play Sam Griesel at the 5. You went small for a while. You went tall for a while with both Rocky Cruiser and Deng Geu on the floor at the same time. That must have been interesting for you to try to manage that whole situation. Yeah, but again, that's a luxury that we do have. There was some foul trouble in the first half, and that big lineup's been very good for us in stretches, in particular that second half against USD. And when we got in foul trouble, we have that other versatility where we might lack some size, but we got smart basketball players, tough kids, and it didn't cost us. In fact, it got us back into the game. It got us that lead down the course of that first half. You at least now can get into a little bit of a rhythm. Granted, you have 4 straight games on the road, which will certainly be a challenge, as you well know, but at least you have 2 games a week, which I know as a coach you really like to have that, to just get your guys comfortable with what you're doing. Yeah, a rhythm is really nice, and we've been off, it felt like, before we played that Denver game. We hadn't played a game in all season, and so now we get going, and it's important to be smart on a Sunday and get some kids healthy and refreshed a little bit. But we also got to take advantage of this practice time and remain hungry and remain humble. And that's a challenge for a young group at times, to handle success, and that's the next step for us. Obviously a significant challenge going on the road at South Dakota State, but maybe that's the right time for a game like this to happen. You come off a big emotional win, and then you have another rival waiting for you down in Brookings this week. Yeah, right time, wrong time, whatever, here it is. And so I know that come Thursday night at 7 o'clock, hopefully this win can take a little bit. And if you can go down there and earn one, then you're really starting to validate things. But first and foremost, we need to enjoy this, one against North Dakota, and tackle these days of practice to get better for, obviously, a really, really good basketball team. Biggest things you want to try to improve at? I know defensive end, I thought, certainly took a step forward against North Dakota. Yeah, I think we keep talking about defense, but so much of our defense is predicated on our offense. And so we need to make sure we're getting better, more disciplined, taking the right shots, taking better care of the basketball offensively. And then our conversion from offense to defense needs to continue to clean up. And because I do think when we're settled into the half court, we're a pretty good defensive team, but we got to make sure it's into a half court, not having teams run off our bad shots or our turnovers. All right, Dave, thanks as always for the time. Thank you, Brian. Stay with us here on the Bison Basketball Show. The North Dakota State women also had a couple of games at Denver and home against North Dakota. We'll recap those after this. Welcome back. The NDSU women's basketball team was coming off a big home win over Western Illinois a couple of weeks ago and hoped to carry that momentum on the road to Denver, a team that swept the Bison last season. A low-scoring contest to start as NDSU was able to hold its own early. Riley Nudell scored the first 7 points for the Bison, including this three-pointer with the shot clock winding down. Denver led it by 5 after the opening quarter. Sofia Jovalovic running the pick and roll with Emily Dietz for the lay-in, her only basket of the game as she was limited due to foul trouble. Michelle Geislerova, coming off a 29-point performance against Western Illinois, was 3 of 5 from outside the arc and scored a team-high 13 points, 10 of those coming in the first half. But the Pios took advantage of 12 first-half turnovers by NDSU to build a double-digit lead. Samantha Romanowski with the steal and lay-in. She finished with 17 points. Late in the first half, Tyra Spencer gets the feed from Dietz and hits another three. Denver led it by 11 after the first 20 minutes. In the second half, Spencer would get the Bison on the board again with the driving lay-in and the foul, but that would be the only basket of the third quarter for North Dakota State, and Denver took advantage, going on an 18-2 run. Lauren Lovin with the steal and easy 2 on the other end. The Pioneers had 20 fast break points, and in the half court, Maddie Nelson was tough to stop inside. She was 10 of 16 from the floor and finished with 27 points and 11 rebounds as Denver rolls to the 81-54 victory, outscoring North Dakota State 50-14 in the paint. The Bison shooting just 25% in the second half. The Bison returned home to host North Dakota for the first time as a conference rival in the D1 era, and off to a fast start. Tyra Spencer stepping through and getting it to drop. She played a team-high 31 minutes. North Dakota would rally back to take the lead as Michaela Reinke hits the three just before the first quarter ends, but the Fighting Hawks just 2 of 9 from long range in the game. Emily Dietz played one of the best games of her career, battling inside for the basket and the foul. She would tie the game. Dietz, 11 first-half points. The Bison would shoot 52% from the field in the opening 20 minutes as Michelle Geislerova hits 3 of 4 from outside the arc. North Dakota State would lead a high-scoring first half, 40-34. North Dakota would open the third quarter with 4 straight points. Jill Morton on the back door, cutting inside and gliding in for 2 of her team-high 13 to trim the Bison lead to 2. But NDSU would respond, outscoring the Fighting Hawks 14-3 the rest of the quarter. Sofia Jovalovic would streak in for 2. She scored 6 off the bench. Later, the Bison breaking the full-court pressure, and the cross-court pass ends up in the hands of Geislerova, who connects on another 3. She was 6 of 10 from the floor overall and poured in a game-high 17. NDSU would pull away from there, extending the lead to double digits. Circling Rimdahl scoring 8 points off the bench, including a huge 3 to open the fourth quarter. Moments later, Dietz crashing the offensive glass, going back up and in for another basket and the foul. She finished with 16 points and 7 boards as the Bison beat North Dakota for the first time since 2004. 69-57 the final. North Dakota State scored 30 points off turnovers and had a season-high 9 steals.
Going into the game, we talked about how physical it was going to be, so we stressed that a lot in practice about finishing with contact and making sure that we were physical with them on defense. It feels so good. I mean, we put so much stress on how important this game was, and it means that much more.
Just a lot of pride, and our team was talking about how big this game was and how we need to be tough and play with hustle and effort for 40 minutes, and that's what will get us through the game today.
All right, now joined by Maren Walseth, NDSU women's basketball coach. North Dakota State gets a win over their rivals here at the Shack. How exciting was that, Maren, to finally get that victory over UND? And I thought your kids just played so tough all 40 minutes in that game.
I'm very proud of the Bison, just the determination and the desire and the toughness they displayed. It was fantastic, and it was fantastic for a lot of reasons. Certainly the rivalry with North Dakota, but also being alumni weekend and having roughly 30 alums honored at halftime. I think that adds to the special moment with this victory.
And a tough turnaround too, because you play Denver, then you have to fly home and quickly get ready for a North Dakota team that was coming off a lopsided home loss to South Dakota State. I'm sure they wanted to get back out on the floor as well. How were you able to get your team kind of reacquainted and ready to roll for that contest?
You know, at Denver was not our best effort, and we talked about addressing some things, but then flushing that. And coming to work on Saturday for practice, really focused on the next game, and we can't look backwards, we must look forwards. I give our captains a lot of credit in leading that charge.
And so, moving forward now, what do you take away most? You've gotten a big win over Western Illinois at home, a big win over North Dakota at home. Now you got to go on the road for 4 straight road contests with a non-conference game with Waldorf in between there. But what's the biggest key now, taking this show on the road and trying to keep this momentum?
I think you talk about the growth and the steps and the forward progress that we've made. I think our group is playing better together. I think our urgency and our intensity on both ends is continuing to go for longer stretches and put out a full 40 minutes. So it's not, we haven't arrived. This is keep plugging away, but how did we get to where we are? We got to keep those in our back pocket and keep going.
Emily Dietz, I thought, was one player that stood out in the paint. You know, she had a tough matchup all afternoon in the North Dakota game, but she was up to the challenge. She got some big rebounds in that game and really scored when your team needed to have a basket.
I was very pleased. You know, somebody like Emily Dietz, I think we're seeing her continuing to kind of settle into herself as a sophomore basketball player at the collegiate level. I was very pleased with how she handled different defenders, used her pace, her counter moves. We knew she was going to have one-on-one coverage. Very pleased with how she went to work.
And one area that your guards have really tried to clean it up, and I think we've seen it, is just taking care of the basketball. You saw a lot of pressure in both games this past week. For the most part, I thought your guards handled it. You can really see them growing up as the season goes along.
It's really about composure. And what is that? That's ball fakes. That's passing off 2 feet with 2 hands, catching with 2 hands. That composure really limits our turnovers and allows us opportunities to score.
All right, so now you got to turn around and play South Dakota State. Got to be exciting to play another rival right away.
Exactly, it is. You know, the UND game is one for momentum and to really feel good about it. But again, we have not arrived. We'll go back, we'll watch film, we'll make some adjustments, and we got to keep going. South Dakota State will be a tough game.
All right, thanks as always for the time, Maren. Good luck in Brookings.
Thank you, Brian.
All right, stay with us here on the Bison Basketball Show. We go one-on-one with Bison Junior Forward Deng Geu. That's after this. Welcome back to the show. Deng Geu's journey to North Dakota State is a unique one. He was born in Uganda, relocating to the United States at a very young age. He was honored as South Dakota's Gatorade Player of the Year as a senior in high school and earned a scholarship to NDSU. This week we go one-on-one with the Bison big man. All right, back for more one-on-one. We are here with NDSU big man, Deng Geu. You are the big man. You're the biggest guy on the team now. What's it like to be the biggest guy on the team?
Rocky, it's a little different, but I like it.
You're also now the oldest guy in terms of experience on the team. This is your 4th year in the program. What's it like now to look around and be the elder statesman, so to speak?
It feels a little weird. There's a lot of changes. See how the team changed throughout the years, but I like what I see.
Well, Deng, your road here is kind of interesting, mainly because you were a Fargo guy, and then you were a Sioux Falls guy, and now you're back in Fargo again. Talk about your road, moving to Fargo, moving to Sioux Falls, and then end up coming back here for college.
It's just, I was here throughout elementary and middle school, and I had a lot of family here, so when I moved to Sioux Falls, it was going to be a different experience, but I really liked it over there. Everybody welcomed me over there, and I met a lot of people. I still have a lot of family over there too, so, and just coming back, it feels like I haven't really left. The old friends I have here welcome me back, and I still talk to them. So.
And you're originally born in Uganda.
I was.
Back in 1997, and I think about 1990, is that right, 97? Yeah. And it ages me because that's when I graduated from high school. Coming to Uganda, coming over here, what was that experience like for you? What was the biggest transition for you? How young were you?
I was 6 years old, so I was still at the age where I haven't started school yet, so it was just, I feel like it was easier for me to adjust. My brothers, some of them were already in their teens, so I felt it was a different experience for them. But for me, I thought it was a pretty smooth transition. They provide like courses like ELL to help you learn English, so I felt that it was pretty smooth for me.
You did have a special moment that happened just over a year ago where you were sworn in as a U.S. citizen.
I did.
What was that experience like for you to say, hey, I'm a citizen of this country now?
It's a great experience. The coaches here, Coach Hendo, who's at SDSU now, and Casey Matthews, all of them really helped me a lot throughout the way, and it's just that ceremony was real fun. Dave showed up, and it was just a good time. Just happy to be a citizen.
Yeah, doggone right. But even though you're a citizen, you still had an opportunity this last summer to go play international basketball back in your home country of Uganda for Uganda. What an experience that must have been for you to get that opportunity. What was that like?
Oh, that was an amazing experience. You know, just travel the world a little bit, see how different people are living. I think it was a life-changing experience. It's something I'd like to do again.
And on the court, to go through international play and have some success. You did have some success there with your country. What's the biggest thing you took away from your playing experience out there?
Just to play hard. Like, you never know who you're going to play against, what they can do. But if you just play hard and play your game, the outcome's going to be favorable.
And I know talking to Dave Richman, he had mentioned that you really didn't start playing organized basketball till 7th, 8th grade. What's the biggest thing that you've had to learn from coming to college, redshirting? There's a lot to learn in this game. What's been the biggest important thing for you?
Just slowing down, just try not to rush things, let things kind of flow in. I think that was my biggest problem my freshman year and kind of last year a little bit too, just to kind of settle down and just let basketball come to me.
Looks like the basketball is coming to you. There you go. That's Deng Geu, one-on-one. Geu had a career-high 24 points at US Bank Stadium against Drake earlier this season and leads the team in both scoring and rebounding. Stay with us here on the Bison Basketball Show as we get you set for the coming week.
The Bison Basketball Show on Midco Sports Network is presented by NODAC Insurance Company and Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.
Back to put a wrap on this week's show as we take a look at the upcoming schedule. The Bison men will hit the road for 4 straight games in league play, starting with conference favorite South Dakota State on Thursday night at 7 p.m. That game can be seen on Midco Sports Network from Frost Arena. From there, the team hits the road to Tulsa, Oklahoma to take on Oral Roberts on Saturday night. The NDSU women take on the Jackrabbits tonight in Brookings. That contest can be seen on Midco SN2. Then the women will hit the road as well to take on Oral Roberts on Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. We'll recap all the action next week, and we'll hope you'll see you then. Have a good one.